Here we have another resource to help us kind of contextualize lynching. Um, and this is a really, really excellent map um, that start zooming in, shows the numbers of lynchings. So each dot represents a lynching that happened, and you can zoom in more. There's also this timeline down here, so you can be looking at the timeline. And also, as you see here, each dot is color-coded. So the vast majority of these dots are African Americans. You can see, though, out here, red Chinese. And if you click the dots, it will tell you what happens. So this was May 1887. A gang of white farmers and schoolboys robbed, murdered, and mutilated over 30 Chinese gold miners at Deep Creek on the Snake River. The pink are Native American. So Native American lynched in 1854, lynched by a mob after being accused by larceny. Um, Here there was another, someone accused of arson. The yellows are Latinos. So here we have someone lynched in 1855, accused of murder. Another accused of armed robbery. So you can go in even closer. The blues are Italians. Mobs stormed the jail and shot and killed 11 Sicilian inmates held inside. So over the community's outrage at the recent jury acquittal of 9 different Sicilian men at a controversial trial for the murder of the police chief. 6,000 people witnessed the spectacle. And you can, here they have additional sources and things like that if you want to know more about, maybe that particular instance. So we can see a bit about space, right? Very much larger numbers of Latinos in the Southwest. Here's someone accused of murder, an alleged outlaw, another accused of murder. Sometimes it'll be because there is like a large number all at once. 75 people hanged or shot by Anglo vigilante groups in the Cart War, with the killings done secretively and never reported in papers. You can also, if we're looking down here, see things about kind of time period. So if we're looking at kind of the earlier period of U.S. history, we're seeing that it's not so many African Americans being killed. Once we are getting into some of the kind of aftermath of the Civil War, that will start to change. So you can see how it's starting to grow, especially once we get into kind of the fall of Reconstruction in the early 20th century, that it's much larger numbers of African Americans. Part of that is that the majority of African Americans in the United States before the Civil War were enslaved. And as kind of sick as it is to think about, they had a monetary worth, right? Enslaved people were worth money. Now, that didn't mean that slave masters didn't sometimes kill the people they were enslaving. I mean, we saw Frederick Douglass talk about the enslaved man who was refusing to work and went into the stream to kind of escape and get shot and killed by the overseer. That would happen, but it was fairly rare. There was kind of a weighing going on of, needing to keep everyone else in line, and so the idea that sometimes killing an enslaved person was worth that. But it was also a financial loss. After the end of slavery, formerly enslaved people are free, and they're free of a lot of the horrors of slavery, but they're also not really valued by the larger society because they're no longer property. And that protection of being property is no longer there. As kind of disturbing as it is to think about the fact that being enslaved offered some degree of protection. I don't think it was worth all the horrors of slavery, obviously. But it's after that that we see these large numbers of lynchings, and especially the real height being, like I said, in the early 20th century. That's where you can see these biggest circles here of numbers of people. But that those lynchings, continued even into the mid 20th century. And we can see, 1931, Lynch, there were allegations of murdering a white school teacher. 3,000 people were there. Some of these dots, there's not many, but the greens are, that didn't give us that one, are usually white. Here's a white man, lynched 1964. Right? This is a very famous case of 3 core workers. That was the Congress on Racial Equality, and killed 1964. Not very long ago. Now, this was not the same kind of big public 3,000 people there, but still. Here's another white person in 1923. Refused to fire a black porter at his hotel. The vast majority of the white folks who were lynched on this map was because they were somehow considered race traitors. They were abolitionists back when slavery was still around. They were supporting the right of black folks to be able to vote and participate in politics during Reconstruction. They were civil rights workers. Those kinds of things that were seen as being kind of traitors to white supremacy and the white race, and therefore losing the protections of whiteness and being fair game to be murdered and killed. So you can spend some time, looking at this map, looking at, the different timelines, whether you're looking at the entire thing or you want to just kind of look at one particular decade or so to be able to, get some kind of additional information. But this also is not all of the lynchings that happened in the United States. This is the documented ones. And there's not always, fully documented. So spend some time here to look at this.